I'm going to show you how to prune blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries. There are strategic ways to do so and maximize your yields. But before we do, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, and check out my memberships for more one-to-one support. Let's dig in. We're going to start with the blueberry bed. Before we start with anything, these are my bypass pruners. They have been cleaned and sharpened, and I recommend these for doing anything that's around pinky length in diameter. The blueberries, of course, are a little bit smaller, but they'll work just fine for those as well. The most important thing that you should pay attention to when it comes to pruning your berries is time of year. Ideally, the very early spring or even in late fall, after everything is done producing its fruit, or in this case, before it's budded out, that's the best time to prune your blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries. I'm kind of mid to late spring, and so I'm going to do a very gentle pruning, but I'm still going to talk about the basics. You do only need to prune your blueberries in the early formative years of growth. Once they get mature, you're only looking at the regular pruning rules, which is to remove dead, diseased, broken. And that's actually all that I'm going to do today. I can see very obviously where the dead and diseased, or well, I don't see any disease, but any broken is because it is brown and brittle. And so I'm just going through and doing clean cuts to get rid of anything that is dead, diseased, or broken. And I'm not going to do any structural pruning right now because I'm late to the game. There's already buds on here. I'll just come back and work that out for my next pruning cycle. But I can tell you a little bit more about it as I just get rid of the dead, diseased, or broken. And that is, you don't want any inward or crossing branches. So in the formative years, you really want to focus on creating an overall healthy growth habit, which means nothing growing inwards. And I'm not going to worry about that. I actually did a pretty good job with my blueberries last year. Then in the formative years, you want to prune back a third of the canopy, which might include some flowers occasionally, but I'm not doing that this season as well. So specific to blueberries is no inward or crossing branches and reducing the canopy to about a third. So literally looking at about sectioning off the plant in thirds and imagining coming down and cutting all that back. But I'm not going to do that this season. Next up is going to be raspberries. Now with our raspberries and blackberries, there are a couple of terms that we need to go ahead and identify in order to prune them properly, and that is primocanes and floricanes. Primocanes are the vines or the canes that shoot out their first year, and they're important to keep because those are going to turn into floricanes. Floricanes, as you can imagine with the Latin part of the name, flora is going to flower and turn into berries. You do not want to cut those. So new growth, first year, those you keep, and then once your floricanes produce flowers and fruit, they're not going to produce anymore. And so after those canes are spent, you will cut those to the ground. So you cut the floricanes down to the ground. So how do you know if you're cutting floricanes? Well, thankfully, you will see dead branches or dead canes like this that you can take out. These are dead. Sometimes they're not completely dead, but you might see just like the old spent flowers on the edges. You can completely remove those. Let's see if I can find an example of one. Ah, here we go. So here is an example of a spent floricane. You know that it was an old floricane that flowered and fruited last year because it's got these old flowers and leaves just dried up, but it also is super brittle. Just like that, you can just break that up. These are going to be excellent for my rabbits to chew on. So everything that I take from the raspberries that are just stemmy or with some foliage on it is gonna go to the rabbits. The next thing I'm gonna do while I'm here is I'm going to guide these guys along their trellis. This is about as simple of a trellis as you can get, because it is literally just 3 lines of wire, and I don't think I can get that one in there, with U-posts. And so I like this method because it's really simple and great for kind of just like piercing them in. There's some dead wood here. So now I'm going to try to like wrap these guys together on here to help hold it all in. So I am trying to control this bramble by restructuring in between my lines of galvanized wire. So blackberries are the same deal. You are getting rid of the floricanes, and you can identify them because they'll be dead wood and they will have these dead spent flowers at the edges of them. And you'll see the new shoots from the ground. I think most of what I've got here are new shoots. I don't think I actually have any, well, maybe a little bit. Maybe I have some floricanes that are starting to come back that I'll just prune to where the foliage is. But the rest of it is super duper obvious. We've also had a pretty solid, let's see, this is actually a good example, okay. Cutting all that. All right, this floricane right here has a bunch of buds on it, but it looks, I can't honestly tell if it's dead or alive. When I scratch the edge there, it's not green, it's brown, but it's like real fresh still. So when in doubt, if you see any buds like this one, just go ahead and leave it. It's not gonna hurt to leave it. But you'll know everything else that is dead and brittle that needs to come out, and especially if it's got these spent flowers on it. So we're gonna go ahead and knock out this crazy patch and see how it looks when we come back. Ready to see our berry bed transformation. So it might look just like a big mass of green to you, but what I see is no dead growth on these blueberries. Everything is nice and cleaned up. And I'm also seeing some berries here. Now this area is where I was filming before, and it is much cleaner. I can see a bunch of berries forming, but there is just so much dead out of the way. Same with this row, it's completely clean. They have been trained as much as possible along their wires so they will grow nice and upright. So many raspberries, you guys. Look at all these guys. They're everywhere on the raspberries. And with the blackberries. Sometimes it might feel a little disappointing if you are planting some of these plants and they're small at first, and in the first couple of years you're not getting much of a harvest. You're just getting a few little berries here and there to snack on. But give them some time. Just like fruit trees, it's a long-term investment. It's a long-term relationship to get that bountiful harvest that you would really hope for. The goal here is to prune them for a foundational structure that lasts them years to come. I hope you enjoyed this video on pruning raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries. If you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, and check out my memberships for more one-on-one support. I look forward to seeing you there.